Viewers, in a sensational U-turn, the union government has asked the UPSC to cancel its advertisement opening up the 45 joint secretary and director level posts to lateral entrance. This comes after the opposition objected to the opening up of the high-level bureaucratic posts without taking into account the criteria of reservations. This U-turn came in the form of a letter written by MOS PMO Dr. Jitender Singh to the UPSC chairperson Preeti Sudha. They pointed out how several high-profile lateral entries were made during the UPA era in the complete defiance of the quota criteria. This letter has stated that the pre-2014 lateral entries were ad hoc and based on favoritism. He then instructed that the new lateral entry process needs to be reviewed and reformed in the context of Prime Minister Modi's focus on ensuring social justice and promoting inclusivity. Now, the Congress has credited Rahul Gandhi for forcing the U-turn by the Modi government. But the BJP has asserted that this move is in line with the Prime Minister's commitment to social justice and correcting the pre-2014 wrongs.
ये फैसला इस संविधान की जीत है। ये फैसला संवैधानिक था, ये संविधान पर प्रहार था, ये इस देश के दलितों, वंचितों, आदिवासियों, पिछड़ों के आरक्षण पर प्रहार था। सरकार को बैकफुट पर जाकर अपना फैसला बदलना पड़ रहा है। लैटरल एंट्री मतलब सीधी भर्ती पर रोक लग रही है और इसका पूरा श्रेय मैं देना चाहूंगी अपने नेता राहुल गांधी को, कांग्रेस अध्यक्ष खड़गे जी को, समूचे विपक्ष को।
प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने हमेशा सामाजिक न्याय के प्रति अपनी प्रतिबद्धता दिखाई है। हमें यह भी ध्यान रखना चाहिए 2014 से पहले किस तरह से यूपीए की सरकार कांग्रेस के जो निर्णय होते थे उनमें रिजर्वेशन के प्रिंसिपल्स का कोई ध्यान नहीं रखा जाता था।
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Let's take this across to our guest now. Joining us, Deepak Reddy is the national spokesperson of the TDP. Professor Dr. Vineet Singh is spokesperson of the LJP. We have Professor Badri Narayan, director at the GB Pant Social Science Institute. Faizan Kidwa is spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, and advocate Kapil Madan is a political analyst joining us. Let me start first and foremost with Deepak Reddy. Deepak Reddy, what's the logic, behind announcing such a scheme and then redacting it so quickly? There are many who would say that perhaps it's pressure from opposition. The opposition is giving, of course, the Congress party full credit to Rahul Gandhi for putting the government on the mat on this particular issue. Is it your own allies? What's exactly happening?
A very good evening, Madhav. More than looking at the aspect of why it has been temporarily withdrawn, that's what I think it is. We need to look at the Congress and the India ecosystem's politics, divisive politics. Again, the same old story. On the basis of religion, they wanted to invoke the RSS angle, and on the basis of caste, they wanted to divide people. So let us be a little frank and get into the facts. The bureaucracy in India has still not broken the shackles of colonialism. And to a great degree, when I see in the district levels, the collectors are still in the old British mindset and the sense of service is not there. So what we need to look at, quoting Prime Minister's words, this is between privilege and professionalism. That's what his words are. But I would like to go one step further and say this is a difference between being a developing nation and a developed nation. You need to get in people with domain knowledge, you need to get in people with new blood, with a vision, and you need to get in people with who are more innovative. But still, Congress plays its cheap politics always. Let me get one aspect before I end. I've actually read some research articles published by certain people from different parts of the country, from the world, who did a study on India and Pakistan. Why? What is the reason? The growth is not as good. So Pakistan, they found out the reason was because of the army, and in India, squarely the reason was because of our bureaucracy. So if we want to be a great nation, if we want to be in the top 3, our mindset has to change. After 77 years, we have to relook at our processes. Okay. So clearly everybody knows at certain posts on the top, you need people with competence. Here, the India ecosystem is harping on religion and again divisive caste politics.
Right.
See what level they are stooping down to and what level
Let me put that
they
question
are working against the larger national interest is what is very sad.
Yeah, let me put that question across to Kapil Madan. Kapil Madan, it's only, harping on communal issues, reference to RSS, etc., on the basis of caste, wanting to divide society is the allegation coming in from the TDP spokesperson. And, that's the kind of politics being played out by the opposition, is the charge that the ruling alliance has on the Congress party. Please respond to that.
Just say this, I heard the gentleman spoke very, elaborately on this issue, and I would, thank him, for exposing, the central government, because he himself says if the decision has been taken in the interest of merit, then why would this government go back and will withdraw, this notification after a few days of, announcing it? I mean, it goes to the root of the matter, because he himself knows that the government is trying to play politics, because he himself knows that it is the opposition who is really playing the role of the opposition and showing mirror to the government, because the policies of the government is not doing social justice, because he knows that we are in a country where, there is, a wide gap between equalities of income. Richers are, getting more rich. Poorers are getting, more poorer. So I think, the fact that he admits that the government has gone back shows that the government itself was not confident. And let me give you another practical example of why this lateral entry system is a backdoor entry of, the people who are the cheerleader of the government. Let me just give you an example of ED. What did the Supreme Court say in ED's case? The Supreme Court on record said that the government has given an illegal tenure to the person, the director of Enforcement Directorate. What is the person who gets this kind of a favor for the government is expected to do? Rather than, serving the institution, rather than, serving the citizen of the people, he would technically be serving the political interests of his masters. So I would thank the gentleman here for making...
lateral entry is a concept. Dr. Manmohan Singh, Mr. Motek Singh Ahluwalia, several people during the UPA regime have all come in through the lateral entry. And if it is something that the UPA did was fine, then why is it suddenly becoming problematic?
Yes,
isn't this hypocrisy?
Yeah, can I just, in fact, I would just like to reiterate what I said before. Now, here it is a government who's using the political office, who's using the public offices for their political gain, and without there being any kind of checks and balances. And I gave you an example said by the Honorable Supreme Court of India, not my word. Honorable Supreme Court of India has...
No, you can question this government.
Just a minute.
You can question this government, Kapil. There is no problem. Nobody is challenging or denying you your right to do so. But the point is, we can't ignore what has happened in UPA regime and during previous Congress regimes as well. If there are several lateral entries that have happened at that point of time, without giving, caste or reservation, so on and so forth, why now has that suddenly become an issue, and why haven't you then shifted the goalpost?
So, Madhav, then in that situation, is it not the central government who's done a self-goal by withdrawing this notification? If they were so confident about this, if they are so confident that, yes, this was in the interest of, people, this was in the interest of larger public interest of the people, this was in the interest of larger public offices and, of public servants who will be serving for the people, then why would the government goes and withdraw? It's a self-goal by the government itself.
Let me bring in Professor Vineet Singh on this. Professor Vineet Singh, I'd like you to respond to what is being stated here by Advocate Kapil Madan. He says that if this scheme was all above board, why has the government then withdrawn it?
Madhavji, good evening to everyone. Let me put one data first. India as of now needs 1400 plus IS officer. As of now, we have got only 412. And at the outset, let me tell you, my party is not against lateral entry. We are just against that. Whatever the provision of reservation, that should be accounted for. Whatever this gentleman said, this is not about self-goal. As a NDA ally, NDA, if I take this, this coalition, we have got this democratic setup where everyone has got the right to voice their concern. This is what my leader has done. And Honorary Prime Minister is so kind and so generous that he has taken that thing and he agrees to it that this was not in the right frame of thing, right taste. So we will take it for some time. We will rework on it and then we'll come back. So it's not about self-goal. It's about taking everyone in confidence and then going for it. First thing first. Second thing I would like to tell you, whosoever, first of all, the opposition should stop patting their back because they set up the precedence of this kind of trend. We only did a transparency in this thing. Initially, it was done on their whims and fancies. Whosoever was recruited, we hardly knew. All the sycophants of the party were in the post. But here, by advertising for this thing, if you would have provisioned about the reservation, I think the things would have been great. Okay. And we are expecting that this government will do that.
Right. Let me bring in Faizan on that note. Faizan, we've just brought in transparency. The government is open to suggestions, criticisms, etc. coming in from within. And it's that flexibility that has been shown by the government in this particular case, says the LJP spokesperson. Please respond to him.
Madhav, where is the transparency? That's exactly what people were concerned, apart from the fact that everybody knew that Narendra Modi, like in many other several cases, he'll push RSS people, he'll push Ambani, Adani people in on higher posts and make things easier for them. See, Madhav, I'm just quoting you certain points here. There was the first Administrative Reform Commission, which was formed under Moraji Desai, the second Administrative Reform Commission, the third Administrative Reform Commission, which spoke about increasing the age for SC/ST candidates for government jobs. And then there was Baswa Commission. If you see all these commissions, they never spoke about doing away with the reservation in lateral entries. On the contrary, all of them maintained that SC/ST candidates are essential for promoting social justice and equality. And they focused on upliftment of the SC/ST communities. But Narendra Modi was doing just the opposite. If you see the November 29, 2018 letter, which was written by the then DOPT Additional Secretary Sujata Chaturvedi to the UPSC Secretary, which said there are no instructions stipulating mandatory reservation for appointment on deputation. Mandatory reservation for ST, ST, OBC is not necessary. Could she have written such a letter without the prior consent of somebody as big in the government as the Prime Minister himself? Because Prime Minister believes in a very centralized leadership. Nothing happens in the government without the consent of Mr. Narendra Modi. So if Narendra Modi was not in agreement, Sujata Chaturvedi would have not written such a letter.
Okay, Professor Vinit Singh wants to respond to you on that point. I'm going to allow him to make a quick response and then you can rebut him if required. Professor Vinit Singh.
Okay, now let me tell you one thing. Responding to this question, first of all, you tell me when this provision, the commission of ARC was constituted under Virappa Moily, why didn't you make the provision for the reservation? First thing first. When the trend started in 60s and 70s, did Manmohan Singh was appointed or Montek Singh Ahluwalia, for that matter, Bimal Jalan or Kaushik Basu, were they appointment in, by considering their background, their caste? No, it was not there. Huh? We need expertise. We need expert people. That's for sure.
Yes, so
but our contention, our contention, let me finish up. Our contention is, can't we find some expert from SC, ST and OBC category? This is my contention. If we can find, well and good.
Respond to that. Respond to that, because I think that's a fair point. If you've not had a similar provision when the UPA government was in power, what's the moral authority with which you're asking for that now is, I think, a fair question to ask, Faizan.
Madhav, the UPA government or the Congress government, it never spoke about doing away with the reservation. You just see how these people are acting. In the last 10 years, Madhav, 5.1 lakh jobs have been lost. PSUs have been given to private entities. Why? Because Narendra Modi doesn't want reservation to apply there. And if you see in the last 5 years, there were 63 lateral appointments, out of which 35 have come directly from private sectors, just like Madhavi Buch. Madhavi Buch was directly appointed by the Prime Minister himself. She was in conflict of interest because she had investments in Adani Group and she didn't disclose this.
I think now let's not bring Hindenburg into this, please. My request, it's a very important and sensitive issue. But we are discussing lateral entries and reservations.
Yes,
let's not bring in a totally unrelated issue, please. My request to you, Faizan. And let me bring in Professor Badri Narayan on that point. Professor Badri Narayan, at that, one question that's being asked is that, has this been done, with a view? Of course, we all know there are elections that are to happen in many states, but is this because perhaps the opposition was able to build a narrative that the government was against reservation? Faizan, of course, is again echoing that. We've seen what has been stated earlier by Kapil Madan, but somewhere is that the fear that's in the government's minds which has forced it to retract when it comes to this lateral entry scheme? Professor Badri Narayan.
I think, Madhav, the opposition has raised the issue and created a kind of discourse. But PM Modi, it also depends on the party who is governing the nation. And if the party is not sensitive towards it, it will not correct its measures, take the things back. So maybe PM Modi, not only because of the political electoral reasons, but also because of understanding and linking himself and his politics from the very beginning with the social justice issue. But maybe election, because in politics of democracy, election matters a lot and election influences a lot. So this step may have double meaning or double implications. One is the electoral, another is the social justice moral concern which PM Modi has shown. But Madhav, if you see what is the root of the emergence of this lateral entry program, it begins with the neoliberal governance, which is outcome of the neoliberal economy implemented by Narasimha Rao, and Congress following that. Congress, because in that kind of market-oriented development notion, you need experts. And for that, Congress started appointing people. And they have not implemented reservation in that.
Deepak Reddy, last question I want to pose to you is this. It's not just lateral entry. When it comes to the caste census, when it comes to Waqf bill, all these issues we've seen, on a number of such issues, the government, at the end of the day, of course, there are differences with the allies. But on several such issues, including Waqf bill, which we saw recently, in Parliament, it was sent to a committee on this particular issue. Only two issues in 10 years of the NDA 1 or the Modi 1 and 2 governments. That was, of course, the land acquisition bill and the farm bill that we saw a rollback. Now, within just 2 months of this government being elected to power, we've seen 3 rollbacks. Is that the impact of the numbers from 303 to 240? Is that what we are seeing happening today? Deepak Reddy?
Madhav, there are two things here. The first thing is, I think it is a temporary withdrawal. And the second and most important thing, I think the strategy is to expose the India ecosystem. Now, in this particular issue, they are not talking about the merits of the lateral entry. They are getting the caste and the religious angle into it. So that is the level of the opposition. They are not serious on any issue which is the larger interest of the nation. So this is something which has to be exposed. I don't want to stoop down to the level and again talk about caste and religion here. But is this good for the country or not is the kind of a discussion what the India ecosystem
All right, we'll have to leave it there, whether it's the broadcast bill, whether it's the Waqf bill, whether it is the current lateral entry scheme. 3 rollbacks that we've seen in a few months, quite uncharacteristic compared to what we've seen in the last few years. Is this a new kind of politics that we're going to see in this particular government that is in power at the center? We'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much, Deepak Reddy, Professor Dr. Vineet Singh, Professor Badri Narayan, Faizan Kidwai and Advocate Kawil Madan for joining us this evening.